It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
I want to welcome to the program for the first time. We have Mr. Adam Michel is with us, policy analyst, the Thomas A. Rue Institute for Economic Policy Studies, and with the Heritage Foundation is how I got in contact with him and requested an interview. Who you focus on tax policy, the federal budget. Adam, thanks so much for coming on the program, sir.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I wanted to have you on to talk about the internet sales tax specifically, because we got the Supreme Court that's going to be really kind of going over or going to hear a really huge decision that's got implications for everybody in the country as well as us here in Arkansas. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so in a couple months ago, the Supreme Court heard this ruling in the case is called the Wayfarer, the online retailer against South Dakota, and what the argument is about is whether or not states like South Dakota or California should be able to compel businesses that aren't in their state to collect their local sales tax. And so we're going to get a ruling here in the next either this coming Monday or the following Monday. And the hope is that the Supreme Court upholds the sort of boundaries of state authority, that they tell states, no, indeed, you can't reach outside of your border and assess taxes on people who don't live there.
This is a big deal for us in Arkansas because, of course, Arkansas is the home of Walmart, and Walmart has a lobby, and I think they definitely would support our delegation to Washington, D.C., instituting a sort of national internet sales tax. And so, I mean, that if the Supreme Court were to overturn, the current precedent, that would be the next battle, right? Yeah,
that's the current precedent is the precedent under Quill, which was a decision in the 1990s, and that decision said protected businesses that were outside of states that don't have a physical presence there from collecting their sales tax. And so if the Supreme Court overturns that and says there's a free-for-all, states can compel any company, no matter where they're located, to collect their local sales tax, it'll create a incredible burden on especially small and local retailers who if you sell to any state around the country, you now have to comply with the over 10,000 different taxing jurisdictions, different rules, different rates, and that's really unsustainable. So then Congress will have to come in, and Congress seems to favor right now a regime of not recodifying the Quill standard, but instead saying, hey, you can still tax outside your borders. Just here are some rules about how to do it, and that would be really unfortunate.
Yeah, it absolutely would, and it would be anti-business, and it's going to really, I think it's the gateway to regulate the internet even more. This great piece of technology that is extremely convenient. Hey, do you buy the argument, Adam? We're talking with Adam Michel from the Heritage Foundation. Do you buy the argument that this is somehow going to save Main Street businesses if we were to somehow successfully tax the internet?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, I think it would actually make large internet retailers like the Amazons of the world even more hegemonic in their space. That Amazon has the technology and the resources to comply with tax laws in every state and every local jurisdiction. This will really hit the local, small, medium-sized businesses, mom-and-pop stores, people who make something as a hobby and sell it online. All of these folks will also have to comply with these same rules, and the cost to them will be significantly larger as a portion of their profits than a big Amazon or a Walmart. And so really what this is about protecting small online retailers from the burdensome tax regulations of states all across the country.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I don't understand. I mean, that in our state here locally, they've tried to pass. They failed to pass. Thankfully, we had enough conservatives that stood up against them. but they were trying to pass an internet sales tax that they admitted in committee was unconstitutional, trying to get a challenge because they want to be able to tax citizens who are outside of the state and get them to comply with our tax code. And, one of their arguments was, hey, we've got to save our Main Street businesses. Main Street is bleeding. And I'm thinking, whether you tax the internet or not, I'm still going to use the internet. And a matter of fact, they're counting on it. And so if you're a small mom and pop business, how is getting more money to the government or getting them more tributaries to get revenue from us, how does that help a mom and pop business who actually needs to move more product?
It doesn't. That's a really good point. This is in all cases just a revenue grab by your local government. They're looking for new sources of revenue, and this seems to be an easy way to get it. But going back to this idea that the internet is currently untaxed is really a myth. I think it's only about 20% of products that are bought online that are currently untaxed by your state or local government, or couldn't be taxed by your state and local government. So really, we're just talking about that small sliver of internet sales that are done by the small and medium-sized businesses that aren't your big Amazons. Your Apple does a lot of retail online. These businesses already do collect sales tax in every state. So we are truly talking about the sort of innovative online businesses that can't deal with the regulations from every state and every jurisdiction.
Yeah, and that would be, that'd be a nightmare if you had to comply. And a lot of people, I think, would just go out of business. I think that's the reality here. Adam, if the current precedent is overturned in the South Dakota case, and the Supreme Court says, you know what, we were wrong when we took this case up originally about the catalogs, that mail-in catalogs and people, ordering stuff out of the catalog. That was the initial exemption, and now, of course, we have the internet. But what other implications are there, Adam, for states that maybe want to impose taxes on other states? I mean, it's kind of a sovereignty nightmare. If for example, and I've heard this one in some reports, if California, very liberal state, supposedly different than Arkansas, although sometimes I wonder, if they wanted to maybe impose a carbon tax on Arkansas coal plants, this opens a Pandora's box, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It sets in motion this idea that it is okay for local governing entities to reach beyond their sovereign borders into other sovereign jurisdictions and impose their taxes, their rules, their regulations. I think it's not just a danger of the California example you gave, but we're seeing it internationally. Europe there's this thing on the horizon called a digital tax. The European Union is proposing taxing American digital companies, Facebook, Google, based on where the people that use the product are, not based on where the company is located. And that's the same precedent. It's opening up the ability of Europe to reach into the United States and tax our businesses simply because we have some of the most successful businesses in the world, and they are looking for revenue, not for any real sort of physical presence standard, which is the basis of tax law throughout history.
I haven't heard this, and I understand if you don't know the answer to this question, but do we have any preliminary reports of how some of the justices reacted or questioned, the key players in this case? I mean, do we have any idea of how they feel about this? Do you know?
Going into the case, there was sort of conventional wisdom that the Quill decision precedent was going to be overturned, and that the internet was going to be open to taxation. However, after the argument, people sort of came down on either side, and it's really anyone's guess. It's something that a lot of people are waiting for, and there's really no way at this point that no one sort of showed their hand, if you will. We're really waiting on the decision.
Well, I got to tell you, they have a government in the wings waiting with this insatiable thirst for more revenue, and that's what this is. This is a way to get more revenue. And if they do overturn the precedent, I mean, we're going to have a ton of laws that are going to go forward, and it's going to really, I feel it, be a crisis of sovereignty. So I certainly hope they leave it the way it is. I'm under the belief, Adam, that one of the only ways to limit government is to just not allow them, not give them the means to collect the money in the first place. If they don't have it, they can't spend it.
I think that's a really great place to start. It's the idea that if you give them a new outlet, a new thing to tax, they're going to tax it, and that's if you see. I'm not sure if this is the case in Arkansas and the proposal you talked about, in almost every other state, when they talk about expanding the number of things they can tax, expanding the tax base by including these internet sales, they never offset it with a lower rate, which is what all good tax policy would tell you have to do. So it's purely just a way to raise additional revenue rather than really looking at what they're spending the money on. And that's the problem of government at all levels.
Well, they try to claim that they'll let us grow government now, we'll shrink it later, but they rarely want to put them both in the same bill. I'll tell you that much. It's always future promises. We'll cut taxes over here later. So, we're not holding our breath here in Arkansas. Adam Mitchell, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for being with us.
Indeed. Thanks for having me on.
All righty. Have a great day. It's Adam Mitchell, everybody, policy analyst, Heritage Foundation, the Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies. Really glad to meet him. Really glad to get his take on this. We'll be watching and to see what the Supreme Court does when it comes to this concept of taxing the internet, folks. It's going to be a regulatory nightmare for small business owners if, in fact, they do overturn the precedent. I would hope the Supreme Court would consider that.